Hello there, we are Chris and Megan Rhea from No Small Life, and we're coming back with part 2 of the series we're in, and that's how to improve our emotional health in 2022.
Who's ready for some of that?
Come on, somebody. So the thing is, we have this whole pandemic and the last few years hanging over our head, and there's a problem that we all face. And the problem is this: life feels uncertain.
Yes.
And when life feels uncertain, the first thing that goes is our emotional health. We get anxious, we get stressed out, we get angry, we get short with people, depressed, sad. There's these different emotions that come to the surface, and sometimes we don't even know where they come from.
Or why we're feeling the way that we do, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So basically what we have found is if we are going to overcome this fear of life being uncertain, we've got to rebuild our faith.
Yeah.
And when I say faith, I mean our spirit and our soul. And this month we're focusing on our soul. And the definition of soul is this: the soul is the seat of our emotions, influencing our thoughts, passions, desires, and actions, and can be easily shaken when adversity comes.
Wow.
So the seat of our emotions, our emotional health, that's what we're talking about when we talk about the soul. And so what we have here is we have 8 mugs of coffee right here. They're not all full right now.
They're not all what we drink in a day, but this is, just for the purpose of illustration, we busted out our coffee mugs for you guys.
Right. And they represent, each bucket or a mug represents a different part of our soul that needs to be filled if we are going to have healthy emotions.
Right.
If we are going to have a faith that's not rattled easily, if our soul is going to feel replenished, we have to fill all 8 of these. And when any of them starts to get depleted, that's when those feelings of anxiety, depression, sadness, anger, those things start to rise.
Right.
So in our first part, we talked about, what did we talk about? Giving and receiving attention.
Yep.
That was being one of the things that we all need, is we need to be able to give attention to people, but also we need to receive some attention.
Yeah.
And
And
then,
the second one was that we need to connect and contribute to a community. So having your people, having those around you can go to, that you can lean on. And so that was the second bucket or mug, as it were.
so we're going to tackle 2 more today, and Megan's going to start us off by talking about the mind-body connection.
The mind-body connection. All right, now raise your hand if you've ever driven home and wondered how in the world you got there when you pulled in the driveway, right? Yes. How many times have we done that? Or, maybe you're eating something and you get to the end of the bag or an empty plate or a wrapper and you're like, wait, did I already eat that? You get to the end of it and you're like, how did that happen? Right? So many times we can just function on autopilot. Our bodies can just kind of go and do things naturally, and our brains and our minds are in a totally other place. And especially in the last 2 years, I've seen this a lot in the grocery store, right? Have you guys just noticed that people are just walking around like zombies? Just the mental stress that they're under, or maybe they're shocked by the prices at the grocery store. I don't know. But we're so disconnected from our bodies. Our minds are in yesterday, tomorrow, what I have to do later on. Our bodies just go on autopilot and our minds are not always present with them. We've been through so much as a society, so much individually over the last couple of years, and so much just stress collectively through this pandemic, like what Chris was saying. And then, you add the technology piece in there, right?
Wow.
We are expected to be accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. People have access to you through email, social media, DMs, phone calls, text messages, and then not to mention the smartphones that we love, our smartphones, right? We'd be lost without them currently, but we are getting notifications all day long about great things and not so great things happening around the globe, and the stress of that. I just read the statistic that we are now consuming more. Each person is consuming enough information in a single week to crash a laptop.
Wow.
I
mean, I know my screen time viewing goes up and up. It's it's like 1 hour, 2 hours, per day. The screen time, if you look at that, it's crazy how much time we spend looking at our phones.
Oh, I know. And see, all that mental stress, we're not always aware of it because we're in it, right?
Yeah.
But all that mental stress really does have an effect on our bodies. But the good news is that we're in charge of what we can consume.
Yes.
Right? We are in charge of that.
I'm the boss.
You are the boss of what you consume. And we have a loving God who absolutely empathizes and knows how stressful this life can be. Yes. Right? And yes, he gave us multiple ways to deal with this. Now, in Romans 12, you probably know this verse, but it says that we're transformed by the renewing of our minds.
Yes.
But I can't tell you how many times I tried to do that backwards. I try to transform myself and just hope my brain will just catch up with me, right? But that's not the way it works.
Reverse order.
Yeah. It says that we're transformed by the renewing of our minds. So true transformation starts in our minds. So where do we begin on this huge topic of mind-body connection? I was telling Chris, I'm like, oh my gosh, we could literally spend an entire month on just digging into what this mind-body connection is. But to keep it simple, to deuce it down, what is point A for you today in January 2022? And I believe that it's this. Where do we start with the mind-body connection? And it's coming back to the present moment and back to truth. Okay? Coming back to the present moment and back to truth. We are used to living with high levels of stress.
Sure.
We just are. We are go, 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 and our brains are in tomorrow or next week, and we're not always aware of what we're doing in the present moment. Like I said, we can just go on autopilot. And it's difficult to come down from that heightened, frazzled state. And so in order to do so, we seek out our comforters, right? We seek out things that will soothe us in the moment when we're just feeling frazzled because we don't want to slow down. We just got to keep going. So, okay, we reach for chocolate or salt or alcohol or Netflix just to numb out, right? And instead of just pausing and recognizing what's going on for a moment and leaning back into the Lord. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." Be still and know that I am God. And in the original, that Hebrew language, that be still means to cease striving. Cease striving or relax and know. And you know what's so cool about that word know? There's a knowledge part, right? Like we know things. But that word is an intimate word. It means to cohabitate. So it's like when you're living with somebody, how you know them, you know their habits, you know the way they think more than other people who don't cohabitate with them know them. So cease striving and cohabitate with your God. That's literally what it means, you guys. And so God's solution for all the stress that we're living under is not to just, bear down and keep going and grit through it, but it's to cease striving and to trust and to live and cohabitate with Him. And Chris is going to talk into that intimacy part in just a second. But I want to give you a really simple way to do that today because we are all about practical action that's going to give you traction, okay? I did not mean for that to rhyme. It just did.
You're just that good.
I'm just that cheesy sometimes. But what I want to do is look at the same verse, the Psalm 46:10, in the Message translation. Translation. Help me. Translation. And it says this, verse 8 and 10 say, attention all. Attention all. So what does the Lord do? He grabs our attention, right? He gets our mental focus back and our mindfulness, if you will, right there. He says, see the marvels of God. Right there, he gives us an invitation to come, to bring our minds back into our bodies and to see and experience all the marvels of God. And he gives us an object of creation to focus on, okay? He says, he plants trees and flowers all over the earth. It seems like this really simple thing, but when is the last time you just got out into nature and just walked and breathed for like 10 minutes? And yes, I know
with no phone.
With no phone. Okay, that's the thing. Without like scrolling or, just got outside. And yeah,
And not to take a great Instagram picture of the sunset.
Right. But like actually just be an experience just for you, not for like anybody else, but just for your own soul. And dude, I know it is January. I am feeling the January right now. But 10 minutes. If you bundled up, if you got outside, if you just walked and breathed and said, okay, attention all, see the marvels of God, stare at a leaf for a minute, right? Look at the intricacies of that, and just marvel at it. And verse 10, this whole be still and know that I'm God. In the Message, it says this: step out of the traffic.
Wow.
Step out of the traffic.
A lot of traffic around us right now.
Take a long,
metaphorical
traffic. Take a long, loving look at your high God. Step out of the traffic and take a long, loving look at your high God. And that's the first step, you guys. To step out, to cease striving for a minute, to pause, to breathe, to let your mind and your brain marvel at the wonders of God and kind of bring everything back into alignment for just a couple minutes. It's a small step, but it is a great initial step to combating the stress and the mental overload that's just coming at us all the time. Because even if it's chaotic, even if you are experiencing emotional pain or physical pain, we have a choice for a moment to cease striving and know that he is God, to be still and cohabitate with him, right? And Chris is going to talk more about that intimacy piece right now.
Yeah, what I loved about what you said also is this mind-body connection, something that I've learned about it, is that when your mind is stressed or your mind is fearful, it literally creates physical symptoms.
It does.
In our body. Our heart starts to race a little bit more. We can get pain. A lot of people experience they carry tension, physical stress right in their shoulders,
nerve pain,
or in their back. Right. That happens. Our minds can work up our bodies. We can feel anxious or stressed, and why we go to the gym and go for a run, and then what we feel better because our mind and our body is connected in such a way, and it's designed by God to be that way. Yeah. And that's why when you do what Megan was just talking about, not only does it relieve stress in your mind, but your body begins to calm and be at absolute peace. Right. I tried this before. When I was told you last week, I had this 10-day anxiety attack. And what I did is I tried to calm myself, focus on my breathing, shut my eyes, not think, but just think about breathing and think about, put worship on. And I would just feel myself calm. We can actually bring our heart rate down, bring the stress down, our bodies relax. It's amazing what we can do when we're intentional about it.
Absolutely.
So the next mug we're going to talk about, it's this guy right here. We are going to talk about, and it's intimacy. We all have a need for intimacy. We got to fill that mug up a little bit, so to speak.
Mr. Wizard over here.
With intimacy. It's super important. Now, intimacy has 3 components to it, and I'm going to go through them really quick. There's spiritual intimacy, emotional intimacy, physical intimacy. All 3 when you experience 3 of them, they fill
feel
your
that.
soul. You start to fill the bucket up. When we don't have them, it gets depleted. So spiritual intimacy, a lot like Megan was talking about being still earlier, it has to do with us connecting to the heart of God.
Right.
Spirituality is huge. We are spiritual beings made in the image of God, longing to connect to our Creator. In fact, when God designed Adam and Eve way back in the garden, He designed them to have relations. It says He made man and woman in His image just so He could walk with them and have relationship with them. It's amazing. But then we sinned, separated ourselves from God, but He gave everything. He sent Jesus to this earth, became the sacrificial lamb, took all of our sin, shame, past on Himself, died for it, rose from the dead, and now when we put our faith in Him, we can have that spiritual connection to our Father. That's what Jesus came to earth to do, is show us the Father, show us the heart of God, the power of God, who He was. And so when we connect with God on a deep level through spiritual practices like prayer, worship, reading God's Word, journaling, spending time with Him, what happens is we download His heart and we get to see this world through His eyes. Our hearts become softer. They become more transformed. We become more like Him and less like us in a lot of ways.
In all the good ways.
We become better versions of ourselves because we have more wisdom. We have the fruit of the Spirit, which is love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, gentleness, self-control. We have these things operating in our lives. So the spiritual connection is so important. This is what took a hard guy, a hard religious guy like Saul, and turned him into this soft man of God who had a heart for the Lord. And it was Jesus. It was intimacy with the Father. He says this. I love it in Philippians 3. He says this. He says, "Yet all of the accomplishments that I once took credit for, I've now forsaken them, and I regard it as nothing compared to the delight of experiencing Jesus Christ as my Lord. To truly know Him meant letting go of everything from my past, throwing all my boasting on the garbage heap. It's all like a pile of manure to me now, so that I may be enriched in the reality of knowing Jesus Christ and embrace Him as Lord in all of His greatness." And listen to this last line in the Passion Translation. I love this. He says, "My passion is to be consumed with Him." Man, there is so much power when we have this spiritual connection to God. It's all throughout. If you look at David's life, all of his longings, and he had a hard life, King David. You read the Psalms. It's not always like, "You're so good, God." It's more like, "I am struggling. Where are you? But I need you." Only you can satisfy. As the deer pants for water, so my soul thirsts for you. He knew that there was nothing going to satisfy him in this world but a deep spiritual intimacy with the Father. So spiritual intimacy, number one. Super important if we are going to fill that bucket. The other parts of intimacy, though, are emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy can be defined as this: allowing yourself to connect more deeply with another person through actions that express feelings, vulnerabilities, and trust. See, we have a deep need, kind of goes back to last week's need for attention. Some of these are connected. But we have a need to be able to be transparent, open, and honest with our feelings to a person, someone on this planet, a spouse, kids, friends, parents, whatever it may be. We have this deep need to connect emotionally, not surface, Not just, hey, look at the football game was great. Hey, did you see the line? No, we have this longing to connect on a deeper level.
To be known and let somebody know you, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why you can't really get an appointment with a therapist right now.
Oh,
They're in
my
high
gosh.
demand.
Have y'all tried it? It's tricky.
They're in high demand because so many people are longing just to have that emotional intimacy, to be able to express what's really in their heart to another person. I'm currently counseling a few people, and one of the people I was counseling, this guy, when we first started our sessions, he had this weight on his shoulders. I mean, he just looked heavy. He was hunched over. Yeah. His eyes were full of worry and fear. Just felt like he had this mantle on his shoulders. And as each session progressed, 1, 2, 3, 4, as we started going and he started opening up and getting some things off of his chest and just being able to express his emotions and feelings without being judged for them, which is huge.
Yes.
And being able to trust another human, not to judge you or look down on you. I just saw the weight lift. And the tears of angst that he once had became like tears of joy, and there was hope in his eyes. And I can see the transformation taking. So filling this bucket with emotional intimacy, absolutely huge.
Absolutely.
And the last piece of intimacy is physical intimacy. Physical intimacy can be defined as this. It's about touch and closeness between people. In a romantic relationship, it might include holding hands, cuddling, kissing, and even sex. But your relationship doesn't have to be sexual or romantic to have physical intimacy. A warm hug, putting your arm around someone. This is physical intimacy. And we need this. Yeah. This is why babies, if they're not touched right away, they'll go crazy. Sometimes if you leave a baby untouched, it's a proven fact that baby will die. We are built to have physical
human touch,
intimacy, someone to touch us and just be there for us in a non-sexual way.
Right.
Just to say, I'm here with you. I got your back. We have a need for this. I have a friend who, during the pandemic, he's a single friend, and when we were on lockdown, he said he didn't touch another human for what, like 3 months?
It was a long time.
Or 6 months.
Yeah, like not hugs, handshakes, all the things like Chris said, not sexual touch, but just appropriate, loving touch to another human. He didn't experience that, and he felt that. The effects of that.
Yeah, he felt himself being depressed, like wanting to cry, just being sad, because we need to be touched.
Right.
In fact, it's a proven fact that there's a chemical reaction that happens in our brains when we are hugged by a loved one, by a parent, by a spouse, by a child, by a friend.
Right.
There's a chemical reaction that takes place. Oxytocin is released in our brains, and it's a bonding kind of neurotransmitter that's just released when we hug, when we hold someone, when we tell them it's going to be okay, when we soothe them like this.
Just brings security and some peace.
It brings peace. Yeah. So this week, if you want...
A challenge for you guys.
If you want to go deeper and fill your emotional bucket and improve your emotional health, we've got to be able to fill that mind-body connection to slow our minds. And our minds will control our bodies and actually bring peace into our lives. We got to be able to have some spiritual, emotional, and physical intimacy in our lives.
Yeah. So you guys, the challenge for the week is this.
The challenge for the week is we want you to recognize the mind-body connection. If you're driving down the road and you're checked out, come back to the present. Try to find there's a tree, there's a street sign. Notice your surroundings.
Yes.
Put the phone down a little bit longer this week. observe nature, be present. When you find yourself going to the past or too much to the what if of the future, come back to the present.
Right.
And we also, to combine with that, want you to create some kind of spiritual, emotional, and physical intimacy this week. One time even.
Yeah.
Spend some time with God this
Right.
week, connecting to his heart. Connect emotionally with a person. If it's a therapist, fine.
Sure.
If it's a husband, a wife, a parent, a daughter, a son, a sibling, friend, whatever,
Right.
connect.
Yeah.
Just talk. Be honest. And then put your arm around someone. I know it's COVID season, and we're all about social distancing
Right.
and fist bumping, but
Yes.
when it feels safe, got to mask up to do it,
Right.
you can. But just put your arm on someone. Give someone a long hug. Not in a weird, creepy way, okay?
Please.
But just grab someone
them
and say,
know.
hey, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
I got your back.
Yeah.
I love you. So that's the challenge of the week. 2 more buckets. Looking forward to next week. And we're going to talk about these 2 buckets, and you're not going to want to miss this.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
But just before we go, I do want to say we are a nonprofit organization, No Small Life, 501c3 nonprofit. And we are doing a lot of coaching right now. We're doing a lot of content creation, trying to see true transformation in people's lives. Now, a lot of people would charge for this content. We didn't want to do that. We wanted this content to be free and accessible to every single person who needs this.
Yeah.
And in order to keep doing that, we really are in need of some more donors, some people to partner with us to donate to our ministry on a monthly basis. If that's something in your heart that you feel in your heart to do, please visit nosmalllife.me/donate. I don't care if it's a $10 donation, a $5 donation, a $20 donation, a $5,000 donation. Every little bit helps. And if you can partner with us monthly to help get this content out to people for free, that would help us immensely to keep producing it. So God bless you guys. Have a great week. Just kidding. Not quite done yet.
Ta-da!
If you want to stay up to date with everything that we have going on, all the free content that we put out, 1, we'd love for you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Number 2, we have a Facebook group.
Private Facebook group just for y'all that are joining us on the gatherings.
Because we want a sense of community in that Facebook group. So we can, there's a link below where you can click right to our Facebook group. It's private. We want to build some community. Also, if you're not on our email list and up to date, getting every email that we send out, that's how you can stay up to date with us. Visit nosmalllife.me. There's a big yellow bar at the top that says stay up to date. You just put your name and email address in. For real, we're leaving this time. God bless you. Have a great day.